So everyone, welcome to The Mix is Almost Perfect. So we have one of my good friends. His name's Russell, and he used to work in the automotive industry.
Work for construction.
And now, yeah, he went to construction. What's really cool is Russell pretty much used to do pretty much parts, and he has moved over to the
heavy construction.
You know,
so I used to do automotive parts. Now I'm doing heavy construction, heavy equipment, machinery parts. So basically John Deere, anything, Hitachi, anything that's heavy equipment, excavators, skid steers, loaders that need parts, I take care of basically.
That's awesome. So I know, back in the day, you used to tell me about some of the audiovisual stuff they had on some of the more glamorous cars that you guys used to take care of.
More so the audio, the visual. I can tell you that they used really expensive navigation systems, and
yeah,
a lot of the Bluetooth. A lot of the stuff was tied into Bluetooth and all that.
Hey, Bluetooth. You know what? Nowadays, at least in our industry, like Bluetooth is becoming more and more standardized. I know that the FCC wants to take away all our frequencies and give us just the 2.4 gigahertz, and I'm like,
not sold on that one.
Well, here's the thing: for the car industry, you guys don't have to go more than what, 15 feet at the most. And I'm thinking probably it's 12, 6 or 7 feet.
Yeah.
And then I think that's overkill. Like, the fact is, like, when we're doing, wireless,
you do 10 feet.
No, we're doing 100, 200, 300 feet. Yeah. It gets unstable. Bluetooth gets unstable after 100 feet.
So in our industry, it's very precise and clear, but from what your application is going to be a lot of.
The frequency gets unstable after about 100 feet. I suppose they have antennas, but like for Bluetooth, it's one of those things where it's
hit or miss.
It's a hit or miss.
What really stinks is when you're talking to somebody on the Bluetooth system. And,
okay.
I can speak for as far as Lexus and Toyota. If you're on speaker and somebody else is on speaker and you're both using a Bluetooth frequency and you're driving in a very heavily dense area, that signal can bounce back and forth like crazy, and you can't. It's really hard to hear somebody. So you may be 10 feet away from somebody, or your fiber optic cable or whatever they use to generate the signal, but it just the quality may suck. It's after a certain point. You know what I mean?
Yeah, so. I mean, you know what? I know. I've seen some of your cars. You had a nice Toyota at once.
I did. Yeah, I had a Toyota Camry at one point.
Yeah, they're great. They're great. They drive really well, and you know what? They have great sound systems. I think
they have. Well, I know they use like Pioneer. And
is that like the standard that they use?
Standard for Toyota and Lexus, it's like Pioneer sound system. They use
what's that other system you were telling me about?
Yeah, the higher end Lexuses use Mark Levinson amplifiers and all that for the amps and all that, and speakers, Mark Levinson speakers. But that was years ago. I don't know. I think they still use that now. I don't think they really changed vendors or anything for their amplifiers. But I mean, they were pretty badass speakers and badass amplifiers.
They had some real boom. Yeah, I think I've heard. I know. I've definitely heard some friends.
Have you heard of Mark Levinson before?
Well, you're everyone.
That's the only. I know you. There's a lot of different vendors or manufacturers for speakers and amplifiers. I didn't know. As far as automotive use goes, there was just one that I knew of, which was Mark Levinson, and Pioneer and Denso, I believe, makes a couple amplifiers. But for industrial use, I don't know what they would use for amps. You know what I mean? There's got to be some other vendor, you know what I mean, or some other manufacturer.
Yeah, that's why I wanted to get you on here, because, we're talking about, audiovisual and different elements, but people don't think of cars like actually, and there's a huge industry, like I know with my car, I have a Cobalt, and my whole sound system, they were like paper and cardboard speakers, and I ended up switching everything out. And
who's your Kenwood, right? for your?
Well, then my head amp, and everyone, if you don't know what a head amp is, that's pretty much your stereo, and generally,
like the faceplate you're talking about, or
the main. Well, you know.
Oh,
that the main. So when you ever hear a mechanic say, "Oh yeah, your head amp's dead," that's actually the amplifier that's actually built into. It's almost like when you get like when you have the amplifier in your house and you have all the plugs and you're plugging in all your the RCAs and your and everything for your surround sound.
Right.
The head amp in a car is actually very similar to like your stereo amp, and it has the radio and stuff built into it. Now some of the bigger, nicer systems, you have a separate amp to, like, if you have larger speakers and you want your subs. Like mine, I have a small sub amp, a Kenwood sub amp, and I think it's like the smallest they made was like an 800, 800 watt, and trust me, it's like at like 10%. Because like if you push it any further than that, I have no control. It's like
really? I
don't need that much. Yeah. So, but when it comes down to that's awesome. I think so that's what head amps are. So
yeah, as far as automotive use goes, I mean, not so much the visual, more audio, but I mean, I've seen.
But you see now today, especially with these newer cars. I mean, screens are huge.
Well, yeah, what I can tell you, like the new Tesla. I mean, I've seen pictures of that when I went to the auto show last year. In the dash, if you sit in the car, like you'll have not just a normal navigation screen, which is like maybe a 6 inches by 6 inches. You know what I mean? This you're talking maybe like the entire.
The whole front dashboard.
The whole dash is just one giant screen, and it's got like multi-function features, and you've got multiple controllers. You can control the temperature of the car through the dash. But through the screen, it's a touch screen. It's a touch screen basically. Yeah. It's like a little mini 32 or maybe an 18-inch screen TV in your dash. You know what I mean? So as far as visual goes, that's the only car that I know of.
It's beautiful, isn't it? It's gorgeous. I think
it's great, but it's expensive. But it's you get what you pay for.
I noticed some of those cars they're using like light like displays where mirroring where it actually looks like things are actually popping up.
Pop-up
so
displays,
what would that be like with Star Trek? That'd be like holograms.
The hologram. Well,
they're doing like a hologram kind of thing.
Yeah, it's more like an LED display. So like I know like the Buicks use that and the Cadillacs where you're driving, but it's not on your navigation screen. It's on your odometer. So straight ahead you'll see straight ahead your dash when you're driving down the road. You'll see a pop-up display. They've got like night vision, but they've had night vision technology for years, but I think now they're just starting to implement that now.
You definitely think it's a big player.
It can be. I mean, it's definitely there's a market for it.
Do you think it's going to be like more like?
I don't think it'll
stay luxury forever. Or
I don't think. No, I think it'll cross over to like the the cheaper and the more affordable cars like Ford or Chevy or maybe even Chrysler. I mean, I think they incorporate some of that technology too. But in my opinion, whatever it costs to manufacture to make a vehicle and still profit from it, they'll use that in their vehicle. Like, I mean, even nowadays they'll use drum brakes. I mean, that technology is from like the 30s, right? And
it works, doesn't it?
It works, but it's old, obsolete technology. But it's cheaper for manufacturers to put drum brakes on a car rather than using rotors and brake pads.
Sure.
If they could save $20 or $30 a car, and they produce millions of cars a year, you're talking $30 million the company just saved just by using drum brakes. So if they can save money on, wiring harnesses or fiber optic cable for their audio or visual or navigation screens, and they can save a couple £100 of wiring and money per car, then yeah, you can.
Well, I know. I know you were saying like, man, if I think you were reading something. You let me know a couple years ago that like, there was this one guy ended up finding out how to like get rid of like a quarter of an inch of like a wire, and it was saved the company like.
From what I can tell, it was like I think it was Chevy or I forget what made Audi. I think it was Audi, but like maybe an engineer had figured out how to save. I think it was like 10 or 15 pounds worth of wiring in the actual car, like because you have like. The engine harness, you've got the body wiring harness, you've got, the harness that controls the roof and all. You know what I mean? Everything is all tied into this one central harness.
Do you want to tell everyone what technically a harness is? Like, so you got different.
So a harness basically it's basically just a bunch of wires that are. Imagine your central nervous system. It's a bunch of wires that are just jumbled up into one giant bunch.
Sure.
So the same thing applies for a car. You've got maybe 10 or 15 or 25 different like strands of wiring that are all hooked up in this one giant central block, right? And from that block, you've got different strands of wiring going in different sections of the car. So from the main computer, you've got like one for the engine. You have a harness for the transmission. You've got a harness for the windows. You've got a harness for what, and they all just tie together in this one giant harness. So if you can, as a manufacturer, if you've got a group of engineers that are trying to save money for the company or for manufacturing costs, and you can find a way to reduce your cost by using different types of cable or fiber optic cable, or at some point, I think they're going through like, aside from fiber optics, they're going to try to use like LED lighting to help alleviate wiring. You can save money on weight. You can save money on wiring harnesses, plastic, and the weight of the vehicle goes down, which in turn saves you gas and increases your gas mileage. Then I think that's the way of the future. So.
Yeah, no, I know let's wrap things up, but there is one thing I wanted you to explain to people, and I know this is something when I was working as like kind of like an intern doing some audio at this specialty
school,
the specialty store that actually was trying to give me a little help. Pretty much with those harnesses, and it's crazy because a lot of that stuff gets hooked up to like audio, the audio head.
Mm-hmm.
So the head amp we're talking.
Everything goes through that.
If something gets, let's say you're doing an aftermarket radio, sometimes you need a security bypass it's called, and what it does is it kind of loops out certain wiring that you don't need, like you hear like the bink 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 bink, the left and right signals and all that, and security warnings and stuff.
All that ties into the dash.
And some of those, because they're aftermarket, some of those some of the car audio, you need to buy like a $50 or $100 bypass, or you aren't going to have any of your sounds.
No. Or, to go on your point, either if you take out a manufacturer's amp or radio and put in an aftermarket one, and you're not careful as to not splice in wires or something, or like you said, just buy some kind of retrofit kit to hook up the amplifier's harness to the main harness of the body of the car.
Sure.
If there's nothing in between, that could seriously mess up some functions of the car already. You know what I mean? And you could void a lot of warranties doing that. So
especially when it's in warranty.
Correct.
Sure.
And your factory warranty can be voided by just installing some cheap aftermarket system.
So you recommend if you ever do aftermarket, make sure you go to a certified
that will not void your warranty. Correct. Okay. You don't just want to go to some other guy to do it for cheaper. You want to make sure it's somebody who can do the work, certified, and not void your manufacturer's warranty, because if you splice something into the harness and that causes some other issues in your car, like the turn signal or the heating going bad or whatever, that all ties in your dashes, just because like I said, the dashboard has its own harness and that ties into the main harness, you know what I mean? So just by doing one thing could really mess up a lot of systems and something else,
Sure.
So, and that'll all void your warranty, and that can cause big problems too, So
just want to let you know that thank you for coming on.
Yes.
My name is Michael, and this is
Russell.
And you are listening to The Mix is Almost Perfect. And Russell, hey, just to let you know, if there's anything that you see that's new that I haven't checked out, new technology, please bring it to my attention, and we will definitely have you back on
and have another session.
Yeah, it'd be great. Thank you again.
Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Bye.
Bye.